Today, we're going to dive into a pretty radical and ancient piece of wisdom. It's one that questions the very foundation of who you think you are. It's definitely a challenge, but, you know, it might just hold the key to a kind of freedom you haven't even imagined. So there's no easing into this one. The Avadhuta Gita just comes right out and says it, suggesting that the identity you spend so much time polishing for everyone else, it isn't just a performance, it's actually a cage. All that work, all that relentless effort to be seen in a certain way, well, according to this, that's the very thing that's holding you captive. And what's so wild is how this ancient challenge feels like it was written for us right now. It taps directly into a question I think a lot of us have deep down. Why does just managing our own lives, our own identities, feel so incredibly, completely exhausting? That exact question leads us right into our first big idea, this performance of being. Let's really dig into this constant curation of a self and why it so often leaves us feeling totally and utterly drained. I mean, just think about it for a second. Every single day we're on a stage of some kind, whether it's the digital stage of social media or the social stages at work, with our family, with our friends, we're constantly shaping a public persona. This never-ending performance takes a huge amount of energy, and that leads to that burnout we all know and this quiet, creeping sense of disconnection from whoever we might be underneath that mask. This slide really just lays out the core conflict, doesn't it? On one side, you've got the world we all live in, social validation. We're chasing likes, looking for approval, building a sense of who we are based on what other people think. It feels safe, It feels stable. But then, on the other side, you have the Avadhuta truth, a raw, unfiltered existence that just doesn't play that game. It seeks nothing, it avoids nothing. It's such a radical break from almost everything our society tells us to want. Okay, so if our social identity is a prison, the logical next step is to improve ourselves to get out of it, right? I mean, that makes sense. Well, this is where this philosophy takes a really sharp turn, and it challenges the very foundation of our modern obsession with self-improvement. So to get this next part, we need to introduce this idea of Dattatreya. Now, in this context, Dattatreya isn't some person you're supposed to worship, but a really powerful psychological idea. Think of it more as a force inside of us, a disruptor that has the power to shatter the ego, to just completely dismantle that curated self we work so hard to maintain. And here it is. This is the core challenge to how we think today. The entire self-improvement industry is built on one single idea. You are flawed and you need fixing. The Avadhuta Gita comes along and proposes the absolute opposite, that your core nature, your soul, is already complete. It's already whole and perfect. You can't actually improve upon it. And what that means is that even our best intentions, like our quest for spiritual growth, can become just another trap. The ego is incredibly clever, right? It can hijack that desire for enlightenment and just turn it into another project, another way to feel special, another achievement to add to the resume. It keeps us constantly busy improving, so we never have to face the profound stillness of just being. So, if building a better self is actually a trap, what's the alternative? Well, that brings us to this idea of deconstruction. The path isn't about adding anything new at all. It's about taking things away. It's about shattering that mirror that's constantly showing us an identity based on what other people think. This path of deconstruction really boils down to three key steps. First, you just consciously decide to abandon the project of self-improvement. Just stop. Second, you start to do the work of dissolving that sense of being a separate observer who is looking out at the world. And third, you have to directly confront our deep need to be important by letting go of our identity as a manager or a parent or the creative one or any other role we use to tell ourselves who we are. And let's be totally honest, this path is not an easy one. It is going to trigger a profound existential fear. I mean, we've spent our entire lives building an identity on these labels. When you start to let them fall away, the question that comes up is pretty terrifying. Without them, is there anything left? Who am I, really? And that very question, as scary as it is, leads us to the final stop on this journey. What actually is left when the mask and the roles and the striving personality finally fall away? Well, it's a state of freedom so profound that it can almost feel unsettling. What remains is what this philosophy calls unconditioned existence. Just try to imagine a state of pure awareness, one that isn't defined by your personality or your likes and dislikes or your personal history. It's consciousness itself, finally free from the ego's constant game of push and pull, desire and fear. It just is. So what does this actually look like in real life? An avaduta, someone living in this state, is no longer driven by that game of chasing pleasure and running from pain. They operate without a pre-written social script, so they're free to just be authentic in every moment. And the result isn't a loss of self, it's actually a radical expansion of self, into a kind of borderless existence, no longer stuck inside the little box we call me. And this gets to the central paradox of it all. It's what you could call terrifying freedom. For the soul, for your true nature, this is absolute liberation. But for the ego, which needs structure, needs approval, needs to be understood, it is terrifying. The ability to live your life without needing anyone else to approve of you or validate your existence, that is the ultimate freedom. And it's also the ego's greatest fear. So, does this mean you have to become a hermit and leave society behind? No, not at all. The real question is, how can we bring this profound wisdom into our super connected, super demanding modern lives? The key is all about a fundamental shift in your perspective. You can still participate in society, you can have a career, you can cherish your relationships. The difference is you start to see all of it as a form of cosmic play. In Sanskrit, the term is lila. Life stops being this desperate struggle for survival or a battle to make your ego feel bigger. It becomes more like a dance. You play your part and you play it beautifully, but you never forget that the role is not who you truly are. And so we end where a journey like this has to end, with the question turned back to you. We've spent this time exploring the idea of taking apart an identity that's built on things outside of you. So the final thought I want to leave you with is this. If you strip all of that away, what's left? What are you really?